Here is a trick so quiet that the people it happens to mostly never notice it. Disney sold the same room twice. Picture a member, 11 months out, the exact moment her booking window opens, coffee in hand, sitting at the computer at 7 in the morning because that is what loyal DVC members learn to do. She wants the week she always books, the room she bought these points to use. And it is gone. Not almost gone. Gone. Somebody got there first, and not just one somebody, because the calendar is a wall of unavailable. So she shrugs, blames herself for sleeping in, and books something smaller. What she does not know, what almost no member fully understands, is that the reason her room vanished is not bad luck, and it is not other members being faster. It is a thing baked into how the entire Disney Vacation Club is built, a structural overlap where more claims can exist on a room than there are nights in that room to give. Disney did not break a rule to do this. Disney wrote the rules, so this is simply how it works. They sold you points and told you what they would buy. They sold the next family points and told them the same thing. And quietly, the math underneath does not fully add up, and the gap between what was promised and what physically exists is the thing you feel every time the room you own is somehow already taken. This is the DVC points betrayal, and it is the part of the program Disney is least eager to explain. Here is what is actually on the table. The whole Disney Vacation Club runs on points. You buy points, points book rooms, and the entire promise rests on one quiet assumption, that the points you own will reliably get you the rooms you were shown. We are going to walk through how the point system actually allocates rooms, the 3 mechanics Disney uses to keep the system technically balanced while it feels impossible to book, why the room you own is not really yours in the way you think, and what happens to availability as Disney keeps selling. Stick around, because the most revealing part is not that booking is hard. It is why it is hard by design, and who benefits every single time you settle for less than the room you paid for. When this system was designed, the logic was elegant, and that is not sarcasm. It genuinely was. Instead of owning one specific week in one specific room, the old rigid timeshare model that everybody hated, Disney gave you points, flexible currency you could spend across different resorts, different room sizes, different times of year. Want a studio for a long trip? Spend your points that way. Want a big villa for a short trip? Spend them that way. Freedom. And to make it fair, Disney built booking windows. At your home resort, the one you actually bought into, you get to book 11 months out before anyone from other resorts can touch it. Then at 7 months out, the whole system opens up and members can book at other resorts too. On paper, beautiful. Your home resort priority protects you, and the 7-month window gives everyone flexibility. And for years, when there were fewer members and fewer points sold, it worked close to as advertised. You could get your room. But here is the quiet structural fact underneath the elegance. The number of points in the system is supposed to match the number of room nights available. Supposed to. And every lever Disney has pulled since then, every resort sold, every chart adjusted, has tested that match in ways that always seem to land on the member's side of the pain. Quick one, before the mechanics. If you want the version of these stories where somebody actually explains the part the brochure skips, subscribe. It is the entire point of this channel. A new breakdown every week, following the money inside the brands you love. Free to do, easy to undo, no 11-month booking window required. Now, how the same room gets sold twice. Here is how a room ends up promised to more people than can sleep in it. Mechanic 1 is reallocation, and it is the slipperiest. Disney periodically rebalances how many points a night costs. They will tell you, correctly, that the total points in a resort's chart stay the same across the year, so nothing was created from nothing. But they shift the weight. The nights everybody wants, the weekends, the holidays, the good seasons, those go up in points. The nights nobody wants go down to balance it. So the system stays mathematically whole, while the rooms you actually want quietly cost more points than they used to, which means your fixed pile of points now reaches fewer of the good nights. You did not lose points. The good rooms just moved further away. Mechanic 2 is the 7-month crush. At 11 months, you have home resort priority, which sounds protective until you realize what happens at 7 months, when every member at every resort can suddenly throw their points at the most popular properties. The beloved resorts, the ones everyone wants, get swarmed the instant that window opens. So, unless you are camping on your booking at exactly 11 months for your home resort, the flexibility Disney sold you as freedom becomes a stampede you are usually too late for. The flexibility is real. It just mostly flows toward the rooms that were always going to be hard to get and away from you. Mechanic 3 is the simplest and the most damning. Disney keeps selling. New members, new points, year after year. And every new pile of points sold is a new set of claims on a pool of rooms that does not grow nearly as fast. The contracts technically balance on paper, the lawyers made sure of that. But the lived experience, the 7 a.m. coffee, the wall of unavailable, the room you own already taken, that experience gets worse with every contract Disney signs because more buyers are chasing a room count that barely moved. You were sold flexibility. What you got was a competition Disney keeps adding players to while collecting the entry fee from every new one. Let me make the betrayal concrete because it lives in one uncomfortable sentence. You do not own a room. You never did. Read your contract, and it is right there. You own points and a right to try to book, subject to availability. Subject to availability. 4 words doing an enormous amount of work. It means the thing you paid $40,000 for is not a place. It is a lottery ticket with priority, and the priority only helps if you treat booking like a part-time job. The member forums tell the real story, and they are full of exactly this. People who bought specifically to stay at one beloved resort, discovering year after year that the resort they bought into is the hardest one in the system to actually book, swarmed at 7 months, gone in minutes. People who planned a trip around a villa size their points were supposed to cover, finding the charts shifted and the villa now costs more points than they hold. The promise was flexibility and security. The reality for a lot of members is that they own a pile of points whose buying power Disney can quietly reshape, chasing rooms Disney keeps selling more claims to. Now, in fairness, and this matters, the system is not a literal fraud. The contracts do balance on paper. Every point does technically correspond to room nights somewhere in the system at some time of year, and a disciplined member who books at exactly 11 months, stays flexible on dates, and learns the system can absolutely still get great trips. Those members are real, and they will tell you, loudly, that it works. But notice what that defense actually requires: precision, vigilance, flexibility, and a willingness to treat your vacation like a competitive sport. The promise that was sold across that folding table was the opposite. It was relax. It is yours. Welcome home. And the gap between relax it is yours and be at your computer at 7 a.m. or lose. It is the whole betrayal, sitting right there in 4 words, subject to availability. And this is the same disease that runs through every corner of modern Disney, the gap between what is sold and what physically exists. The parks sell more demand than the walkways can hold, then manage the overflow with paid line skipping and reservation systems. The cruise line sells a private island paradise to more guests than the beach can fit, then builds a second island to cope. And the DVC sells flexible points to more members than the good rooms can comfortably hold, then hides behind subject to availability when the room you own is gone. It is always the same move. Sell the feeling of abundance, of ease, of it is all yours. Collect the money up front, and then let the customer quietly absorb the scarcity that was baked in from the start, while the contract, written by people far smarter and far better paid than the family at the folding table, makes sure none of it is technically a broken promise. That is the genius and the cruelty of it. Nothing illegal happened. The room was just always going to be harder to get than the salesman's smile suggested, and the only person surprised is the one who believed welcome home meant the room would be there. So, here is the quiet truth this whole thing was built around. The one that lives under that wall of unavailable at 7 in the morning. You were never sold a room. You were sold the right to compete for one against a crowd Disney keeps growing. On a chart Disney keeps reshaping. Under 4 words, subject to availability, that quietly hand Disney the power and quietly leave you the risk. The same room can be promised to a dozen families because no family was ever actually promised that room. They were promised points, and a window, and a hope. Here is the thesis. The Disney Vacation Club is a masterclass in selling certainty while delivering a lottery. The marketing is all permanence and belonging. Welcome home, your room, your magic, forever. The contract is all contingency, subject to availability. Points not rooms, priority not ownership. And the space between the marketing and the contract is exactly where the betrayal lives. Invisible until the morning you sit down to book the thing you own and watch it already belong to someone else. The member will book something smaller. She will tell herself she slept in. She will be back at her computer at 7 a.m. next year, a little earlier, a little more anxious, doing unpaid labor to claim a room she already paid $40,000 for. And Disney will sell another contract tomorrow, adding one more family to the same crowded pool, collecting one more entry fee, promising one more time that the room will be there. So tell me below, because it shapes what I cover next and I read every single one. Have you ever tried to book the DVC resort you actually own and found it completely gone? Which resort and how far out were you? Drop it in the comments, subscribe for the real numbers behind the magic, and I will see you in the next one.